this is going to be a very quick trip. There's no stopping at lights here. There's no waiting for someone on a crosswalk. None of that happens here.
And it'll be interesting to see how many people are lining the streets, because as we've talked about throughout this day, it is so cold. All the outdoor activities were called off. And a lot of people who had been anticipating that they would watch all of this on the mall from even big screens if they weren't able to see events happening on the west front of the Capitol, since those were moved inside, those screens were covered up and inactive, and people were told to stay inside. So we have seen some folks out on the streets, as there is the typical parade route through Washington that had been organized, festooned with flags long ago in anticipation of all of this. But it is currently, by my count, 21 degrees outside in D.C., and the wind gusts have made it feel much colder than that. So we see now the motorcade making its way.
I mean, you see more security and reporters and video cameras than you do just people outside watching. And it's odd because we're so used to this route being 7, 8, 9, 10 deep with people who had long ago rented hotels along this route and paid thousands of dollars to be able to watch from there. And, here there's a smattering of people just to watch the limousine go by, not the slow version of the motorcade like during a parade. This is, the regular, again, motorcade getting a president from point A to point B as quickly and as safely as they can do it.
And that typical part of the parade that we see for that last stretch in inaugurations past, where the president will get out and make it on foot. I think you said earlier that Jimmy Carter was the first president to
go the entire way. That entire 3-mile route from the Capitol to the White House. Jimmy and Rosalind Carter said, you know what? We want people to see us. We want them to think that this office belongs to them, because it does, and we want them to watch us the entire way from the seat of power to the executive mansion.
Seeing the motorcade slowing down to a stop right there.
I mean, maybe somebody was in the crosswalk. I could have been wrong. That van you see, the modified truck there, that is the Secret Service counter-assault team. These are the very heavily armed and armored operators whose job it is to repel an attack on the motorcade. Never been deployed. Actually, have not had to jump out of the vans and do it, but when we get up on the White House driveway and they open their doors and they start taking their stuff out, it's not a group of gentlemen you want to mess with.
Understood. Continuing to take a look there at the Capital One Arena, where the crowd is now awaiting, maybe not the next speaker to take the stage, but certainly the one they've been waiting for all day, and that will be President Donald Trump, who is continuing to make his way to this sports arena in Washington in his motorcade for the next of these official events as part of the inauguration. I would imagine that a lot of the folks in that arena who've been waiting there today have probably been to some, if maybe one or maybe several of Donald Trump's campaign rallies or other events along the way. And Sagar, those of us who've covered a lot of these events, those people are accustomed to waiting quite a long time to get through security, but also to
just waiting on Donald Trump himself to...
Sometimes the schedule takes some twists and turns.
The schedule gets a little bit out of whack. I mean, as it does with a lot of presidents and a lot of candidates. We've all lived through very long delays at the White House and various events. And something like today, even as choreographed as it is, can go off the rails very quickly. What we anticipated would be a few minutes of remarks from Donald Trump after his main speech became longer than the actual speech. That has a way of knocking you off schedule and all the handshakes and the posing with the thumbs up and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, this is not out of the ordinary. That doesn't make it easier when you're not allowed to bring a whole lot of stuff in and you might be really hungry or thirsty. But the anticipation of seeing the new president may be enough to offset a lot of that.
And especially, I guess, coupled with the fact that there are a lot of events that folks who've come here to Washington to experience this haven't really been able to get that same feel. We're all these set pieces of being on the west front of the Capitol and the parade and those moments where his supporters would get to see in person Donald Trump at this point, not really having that because of all of the weather-related changes, but that is very understandable because it's for safety and it is extremely, extremely cold.
I mean, there have been a lot of the usual parties, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night receptions, but that might not be something the average Trump supporter might attend. I mean, we're talking balls where people are, black tie, paying thousands of dollars to get in.
High-level donors and supporters.
Right, exactly. Folks who are willing to put out that kind of money, whereas a lot of times in Washington for inaugurations, you have people who bring their kids and their families just to be able to say, we watched this peaceful transfer of power, a hallmark of American democracy. We wanted our kids outside to watch the outgoing president and the new president roll by. They didn't get that today. Did some of those folks get into the arena? Maybe. Capacity 20,000. That's less than a tenth of the number of people that were expected to be on the West Front and on the Capitol grounds. Forget all the general admission areas on the National Mall, along the parade route, wherever else. You're looking at, maybe in the neighborhood of 300,000 people, and now you're down to 20,000. I'm not great with the math, but that math doesn't seem great. A lot of people who wanted to see something are not going to get to see it.
Just a fraction of what would have been possible, but still.
Fraction, that's probably a better way to than to try to actually do the math in my head. But this arena that's been hosting NBA and NHL games and concerts, and I mean, I've taken my nephews and niece to the circus and to see the Harlem Globetrotters in this building. I mean, it's hosted everything. This is a new one. This is not something that what used to be called the MCI Center, then became the Verizon Center, is now Capital One Arena. This is not something that it's ever hosted. This is not something that's really happened on this scale. The old Capitol Center in the DC suburbs in Maryland hosted a very truncated celebration for Ronald Reagan's 1985 inauguration. That was the last time something was moved indoors, but there was no parade. How, again, they're going to pull off an actual parade in this building? Again, I've seen a lot of different kinds of events in there over the years, but this will be something different.
I've been to many college basketball games in that arena back when it was the MCI Center, kind of dating myself a bit, but
I still refer to it as just simply Verizon with my wife, and that it hasn't been called that for a couple of years now. I'm not violating any naming deals or anything, but to me, it was MCI, like for you, for a long time, and then Verizon. And people in DC who remember the old Capitol Center, long since demolished, have been conflating the two names. So you have Capital One Arena, the new one. The Capitol Center no longer exists. The Capitol. So there have been all kinds of, well, wait, which building is what? What time's the Cap Center thing? Like, well, it's not, because they blew up the building 20 some odd years ago. A lot of concerts and games there as well.
And just to go back to what we were saying earlier about some of the supporters in there, I mean, they have been there probably since at least 8 o'clock this morning. I think there were people getting ready to line up and make their way over there when I was coming in, several hours ahead of that. So this has literally been an all-day affair for the people there in the Capital One Arena.
Musical outreach organization. The United States
and
Army
they're
Field Band
obviously
from
going to
Fort
wait
Meade, Maryland.
a little while longer.
They
We
are
have
led by
not
Commander
quite
and Conductor
seen,
Lieutenant Colonel
nor
Domingo
are we
S.
expecting
Robinson.
necessarily to see
The
President
U.S.
Trump
Army
or
Field
Vice
Band
President
develops
Vance
positive
make their way
connections on behalf of
into
the Army,
the arena
from the
itself.
defense and the United States through
But
live
the crowd
music,
will
multimedia performances,
be sure to let you know
productions,
once it gets its first
emerging
look
technologies,
at the
traveling
now
thousands of miles
47th
annually across
President
our
of the
nation
United
and
States.
around the world, and appearing regularly on major television and streaming.
And what we're seeing now is, you know, if this had been a parade, we would see a lot of marching bands and different musical acts kind of participating, as we often see. But I think we're getting somewhat of a sense of that now from what we have just heard and from what you're seeing on your screen. Some of those same groups who travel here from all over the country to take part in inauguration parades at invitation of the committee and sometimes to represent a certain institution or geographic area. But we are still seeing some of those entities making their way in there for performances. It just looks a little different, but still has a festive feeling to it. And I'm sure that the folks who have been there since very early this morning, who have been listening to a lot, watching a lot, but at least they are seeing now some level of performance as part of the festivities on this inauguration day.
I wonder if that trade-off, sitting inside the arena for 8-9 hours, whatever it might be, the trade-off with not being outside in single-digit wind chill for a good chunk of that. I wonder who'd fall into which side of that. Would you rather have been outside and waiting, I don't know, 5 hours, 6 hours, or inside? I'm gonna vote for inside. And if you did bring little kids, then here's hoping your bag had some, I don't know what you would need there to keep them occupied for 8 hours, but bring it all.
Yeah, and too, just logistically, Sagar, when we think about this is the same arena where Donald Trump spoke last night, and it's really only been in the last 48 hours, really, that all of the logistics for this inauguration have been completely transformed from everything we've talked about of what usually happens to what we see happening now. So using this space for multiple different things, trying to figure out how to accommodate not only the supporters that have been there since early this morning, but also these musical groups and other participants taking place in what would have been the parade. I can't imagine all the work that it takes to get into that, but for whatever level of frustration anybody has been feeling about this is what we're seeing. They were able to figure out how to make it all come together. It's just kind of important to note all of the planning that usually takes years for an inauguration and for all of the events that come together had to be changed at the very, very last minute to accommodate this Arctic blast that we're feeling here in Washington.
And the Capitol Rotunda is always the fallback,
Right.
the bad weather fallback, since it was for Ronald Reagan 40 years ago. It hasn't had to be used, but there exists that possibility. At least they've done it before. There is a way to obviously secure that building and secure that space. To transfer a pro sports arena into this, I mean, you imagine what the logistics involved in this have been over the last 48, 72 hours. You know, we all first got word Friday afternoon, like, hey, they might move it inside, to, oh, wow, they moved it inside. Oh, wow, that must be a terrible, I mean, I have a headache thinking about that for them. To be able to pull it off, you know, the Rotunda, everything there seemed to go well, at least, you know, outside looking in, everything went off without a hitch. Is this easier to secure if you look at it perhaps from the Secret Service standpoint? Absolutely. A building, an actual building, is always going to be easier to secure than an outdoor event, as we saw twice this summer. Speaking of which, that first assassination attempt against Donald Trump in Butler County, Pennsylvania, there will be first responders from Butler County among the folks who are taking part in this parade. So that will be a nice touch. But yeah, the place looks pretty full, and they've got, you know, a whole lot of red, white, and blue going on. It helps that that's, you know, been part of the Washington Capitals and Washington Wizards color scheme as well. So
maybe they already had that on.
They may have already had some of those filters in place with the lights. Who knows? I wonder what they did with the banners, the retired numbers and things there. The camera's not tilted up that high, but you've got Capitals players' numbers retired up there, the old Washington Bullets World Championship banner flying, but those are pretty high up. And I've had such nosebleed seats that we've been looking down on the banners. That's how high we've sat for some games and concerts there.
It's important to note those security measures that you point out from all of those outdoor rallies that we covered before Butler and then after Butler, when the campaign did hold some outdoor events, and there was a question of whether Secret Service would allow the Trump campaign to really do that. And once they had decided that they wanted to return to those outdoor events, and there we see Sagar there.
I know, that's all I had to do was mention it, and now we see their Eastern Conference Champions banner, the President's Trophy, the Washington Mystics.
Still represented there in the Capital One Arena. Home to many different kinds of events, including the 60th Presidential Inaugural Parade.
We've not gotten a sense from the pool traveling with and now President Trump about when exactly we will see him. And again, we are expecting him. If you look very closely at that stage, you have the lectern where he will make his remarks, but off to the left of that, it almost looks like a toy from a distance. It's something my daughters have right now in their playroom. There's a little desk with a presidential seal on it. President Trump is expected to sign some executive orders there. He's been previewing it for days. He told the crowd of this very building yesterday that they would be very happy with some of the actions that he's going to take, and sure enough, he will be signing them from that stage.
Yes, Sagar, and if we see remarks from President Trump, signing of those executive orders that you were talking about, this isn't the last thing on their dance card, so to speak, for the evening. We expect the Trumps to go back to the White House for more signing of executive orders, but even beyond that, and there's a close-up there of that desk that you were just talking about. But after that, there's a series of inaugural balls where we expect the President and First Lady to attend this evening. There's the Commander-in-Chief inaugural ball, there's the Liberty inaugural ball, and then the Starlight ball. So 3 separate events where we expect to see the President and First Lady beyond what's going to be happening in this arena. So they're extreme close-up there of that desk with a stack of what we presume are executive orders and other proclamations that President Trump will be signing once he gets there to the Capital One Arena. But after that, then the parties, those first dances between the President and First Lady that we think we'll be seeing later on tonight.
It's not like it used to be. Ronald Reagan, I believe, had 9 inaugural balls one year, and he joked about if we just go and spend 10 minutes at each, maybe we'll fall asleep by the end of them. That's a lot of transit. That's a lot of in and out of the vehicles and dancing, and 3 seems a little bit more manageable.
There we can see some of the pool photographers who have been traveling around with President Trump today. So anticipate that when we see them, that means that we will be seeing him at least relatively shortly, so they can be out front to get those shots as he and First Lady Melania Trump, we believe, will be coming into this arena.
With note almost smack in the middle of the screen is Evan Vucci, who's the AP's chief Washington photographer, who's covered more inaugurations than I can think of. So,
well, don't date him too much.
Well,
don't make him feel too old.
Let me rephrase that. More big Washington events than I can think of. Yeah, I don't think he would like any kind of age reference there. But if we see Evan Vucci there and he's right in front, then you know that
we know there's a president pretty close
whomever
by.
the dignitary is recovering here, he's getting close. You saw on that little table, which I'm not sure why I think that's funny, but it just looks like this tiny little table in this giant arena. The box with the pens It would look to be that the Trump Sharpies are back. If you recall, we don't just use a ballpoint pen or a little fine tip marker. These are full-on Sharpies that make noise when signing.
You can certainly hear them.
Yes, and President Trump used to revel in handing out boxes of those. I was in the Oval Office one time when he had a group of kids, and he summoned an aide to bring 3 more boxes of them, and was just handing each kid 3 and 4, just kind of flinging them out of this kids grabbing Sharpies and jamming them into their pockets.
Hey, it's a souvenir.
Like, I would take a presidential Sharpie. But it just makes such a distinct sound.
I was about to say, we saw earlier as the president was signing some other proclamations dealing with a lot of staff and some other things aside from the executive orders that we believe will be coming later. But we could hear on the audio from that those Sharpies were in action. So
and he always reveled in signing things in the Oval Office or whatever event he was speaking at, and turning around that folio and holding it up in the air, and that thick signature with that Sharpie was almost as big as some of the actual news in that document. So I trust with these EOs to cheers, he will be showing that off today as well. And then my guess would be that some of those Sharpies get flung into a crowd, and some of these folks are going to walk away with a souvenir.
A look at some of the musicians there who are providing the soundtrack to this stage of the events here in Capital One Arena. Otherwise, they would probably be marching outside on the cold streets of Washington, but they are inside, as are all of our parade-related events this afternoon.
Bullets and bayonets back to the top. Bullets and bayonets.
and gentlemen, welcome to the 2025 Presidential Inaugural Parade. My name is Dan Tanner, and I'm very honored to be requested by our president to be your parade announcer. And it's great to be here with you. I have to say it is a bit of a different format for a parade, but of course our president wanted to keep us safe, wanted to keep us warm. And I can tell you something, the talent that's going to be coming through these doors into this arena, it is going to get hot in here tonight. So thank you for joining us as we celebrate this historic occasion on behalf of the Trump-Vance Presidential Inaugural Committee. The ceremony is about to begin. We're going to get things underway, so if you're with family and friends, been talking in the halls or whatever, get down to your seats, grab a snack. We're going to get the show on the road.
Should be one more pre-ceremony. Washington. Americans we our national spirit. No Americans we our national spirit. Next up is honors. Next up, the herald will play honors. Next thing for us is bravura.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome the official fanfare music group of the President of the United States. Under the direction of Major Aaron Morris, the U.S. Army Band Herald Trumpets performing their fanfare that's actually written for the 47th President of the United States. Listen to this, it's amazing. This is Brass and Glory. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 50th Vice President of the United States of America, Vice President J.D. Vance, accompanied by the Second Lady, Mrs. Usha Vance.
So now we see Vice President J.D. Vance entering the Capital One Arena to a lot of fanfare. Again, these people have been there all day for probably at least 9 hours at this point, probably longer for some of them. So very excited to see their first glimpse in person of one of the two men whom they support who were sworn into the top two executive offices in the U.S. today. There is Vice President J.D. Vance holding one of his children in his arms. This is clearly a long day for the entire family, not just those politicians who are officially being sworn in. There's his wife, Usha Vance, with their other two children making their way to their seats, along with the teddy bear.
Mirabelle was sucking the thumb during her dad taking the oath, and I don't know if that thumb's come out of her mouth since then, but, you know, at age 3, why not when you're on stage in front of 20,000 people?
Just making it through the day.
Do what you have to do. She's not crying, so that's a win for Mom and Dad Vance right there.
Indeed. Over the past couple of minutes leading up to this, we've seen Donald Trump's children filing into this arena. They're on the other end of that aisle where you see the Vances taking their seats.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 47th President of the United States of America.
Now, this is the moment they've been waiting for, with President Donald Trump making his way into the Capital One arena. On their feet with cell phones, capturing this moment, the first time that many of these people who've been waiting all day will be getting their first glimpse in person of their newly sworn president. Again, this is not the last stop of the day for the President and First Lady. They will be taking part in these parade festivities. There's President stopping for a selfie or maybe a video with a supporter. But after this, they will head to the White House, which will be their residence once again. The president's expected to sign a number of executive orders. He will do some of that here in Capital One Arena. There's a desk that we were looking at earlier that is set up on one side of the stage with what looks like a stack of executive orders that we anticipate him to take his traditional black Sharpie marker and put his signature on them, taking those executive actions, which he can do as president, and we often see presidents do in their first hours in office. After the events here in Capital One, again, they will head back to the White House, and then later this evening, there will be several inaugural balls where the President and First Lady will greet their supporters, will take part in a traditional first dance at each one. And it's a long evening, but it caps off a long inauguration day full of celebrations, pageantry, and tradition, albeit a little bit different here with many of these events being moved inside. So we will let you listen and watch to the events of what we expect will be somewhat of a campaign rally, but we will continue to bring you live pictures coming in from across Washington from the other events that will take place throughout the rest of this inauguration day and evening. But for now, I'm Meg Kennard in Washington along with Sagar Magani. Thank you for being along with us as we have walked through many of the events on this inauguration day in Washington of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States. Thanks for being with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now present a selection of participants for the 2025 Presidential Inaugural Parade. Ladies and gentlemen, the heroes of Butler County are here. And they are here to pay homage to the life, selfless community service, and sacrifice of Corey Comparatori. Mr. Comparatori, a 10-year U.S. Army Reserve veteran and past fire chief to the Buffalo Township Volunteer Fire Company, who died during the assassination attempt on the life of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, July 13th, 2024. Their formation consists of Pennsylvania State Police, local police, county sheriffs, emergency services unit, EMS, 911 radio dispatch, and hospital personnel, who all heroically stepped into action during the horrific attack. They are also paying tribute to the courageous service of first responders nationwide. Ladies and gentlemen, at this very special event, let us now take a moment of silence in honor of Corey Comparatori. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Present to you the New York Military Academy from Cornwall-on-Hudson, New York.
New York Military Academy stands out due to its unique connection to the president himself. President Trump is a 1964 graduate and has been enshrined as one of our alumni of distinction. This historic academy has been named a Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, that's JROTC, and are marching with their cadet dress uniforms. Look at these, all modeled after post-World War I General Blackjack Pershing's gray uniform. Introducing the Palm Beach Police and Fire Honor Guard unit, representing the town of Palm Beach, Florida. This group consists of police officers and firefighters from the town of Palm Beach, home to some of the most prestigious people in the world, including President Donald J. Trump. Pipes and drums from New York City. They have performed internationally in Ireland, Canada, Australia, Germany, and Switzerland. And as of this past December, the band has had the distinct honor to perform at the 75th commemoration of the attack on Pearl Harbor in Oahu, Hawaii. The band has also played for hospitalized children, military veterans, as well as the 1980 and 2005 presidential inaugural parades, and His Holiness Pope John Paul II. The NYPD Emerald Society Pipes and Drums formed way back in 1960. And you know, they are the oldest, largest police pipe band in the United States, comprised of all active and retired police officers of various ranks and assignments. Listen to those bagpipes. Let's hear it for them, folks. one that hits close to home for our Vice President. We now welcome the Middletown High School Marching Band and cheerleaders. They're traveling all the way from Middletown, Ohio to proudly represent their school, our nation, and outstanding alumni, including our new Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. The band has performed in countless parades, community and sporting events, as well as competitions. They have also always qualified for the Ohio Music Educators Association state finals for 23 years straight. How about that? And have earned the highest rating in 18 of those appearances. Woo! And today they performed America's Sweet Land of Liberty. While they cheer here in the arena, let's cheer for him again, folks, from our VP hometown, Middletown High School Marching Band. gentlemen, entering the arena right now, traveling from Boca Raton, Florida, the Florida firefighters, pipes and drums. And they are well seasoned when it comes to civic events. They've played and participated in parades, memorials, and other ceremonial events across both the United States and Europe. Today, they are wearing their most notable uniforms. What a great photo opportunity. Consisting of the Glengarry headgear and kilts. And they are proud to honor their fallen brothers and sisters each and every day. And as the Florida fighter fighters, pipes and drums leave the arena, we keep the rhythm and the drums going. Please welcome the Stewart's Creek High School Marching Band. Traveling all the way from Smyrna, Tennessee, they are proud to represent the volunteer state in the 2025 Presidential Inaugural Parade. And as the beat of the drums continues, established in 2013, that band has rapidly become one of Tennessee's premier high school music programs. This band has participated in numerous civic events that honor significant moments in our nation's history, like the 75th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, Captain Jeff Cuss, United States Marine Corps Memorial Dedication, Chicago Thanksgiving Day Parade, and a Lincoln Memorial performance as well. The Stewart's Creek High School Marching Band, everybody! Make them feel welcome here in D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, now welcoming the Mississippi Valley State University Band. They're traveling all the way from Itabita, Mississippi. Look at this, gang. This is the Mean Green Marching Machine. They are proud to represent historically black colleges and universities at the 60th presidential inauguration. you were counting, close to 300 from the Mississippi Valley State University Band. You know, since its founding, the band has consistently played a significant role at their university and across the United States. They have performed for athletic events, Mardi Gras parades, Rose Bowl parades, and many, many more. The Mississippi Valley State University Band takes great pride in presenting culturally diverse presentations for students, faculty, and the surrounding Mississippi communities. Take a look at that brass out there. Woo! That's just part of the big green marching machine. The Mean Green Marching Machine from Itabena, Mississippi, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our new special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff.